धीरेना धीरेना नित्यों तनन धीरेना धीरेना नित्यों तनन धीरेना धीरेना नित्यों तनन धीरेना धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना धीम तनो धनो धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना 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 तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना उदन धीम तदन धीम तन धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना धीम तनो धनो तनो धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना धीरेना तुम तनन धीरेना Dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na udana dhim tadana dhim tana dhire na udana dhim tadana dhim tana dhire na dhim tano 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 tadhire na dhim tano 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 tadhire tom tanana dhire na dhire na 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 udana dhim tadana dhim tana dhire na udana dhim tadana dhim tana dhire na dhim tano 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 tadhire na dhim tano 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 tadhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na dhire na tom tanana dhire na
in Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering and Technology. In association with ISVC, actually ISVC is an incubation center which was established in 2017 by SVCET to shape the student ideas by providing a platform to startups. So myself, Dr. P. Prasanna Kumar, Associate Professor and HOD of Base and H Department. Now I invite my guide, well-wisher, Dr. P. Prasanna Kumar Garu, Principal, Visakha Institute of Engineering and Technology, Narva, Visakhapatnam, I express my gratitude to you, sir, for this webinar program, and I am very thankful to you, sir, for your kind consent to accept my invitation, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I request Appalraj Garu, Senior Faculty Member of BSNS Department, to introduce today's speaker to all the participants. So, Appalraj Garu, please introduce, sir. Thankful to you, sir.
Distinguished dignitary, multi-talented personality in engineering, chemical engineering, mineral process engineering, metallurgical engineering. Very good morning to you, sir. All attendees, sincerely I feel very much privileged and honored to deliver a few words about today's FDP valedictory speaker, Dr. Y. Prasanna Kumar Garu, about his academic achievements, honors, and awards. Dr. Prasanna Kumar Garu has 22 years of teaching experience. 7 scholars were successfully completed, awarded PhD under his worthy and able guidance. To talk about his professional and award and fellowship, he received national first prize in essay writing competition conducted by Ministry of Surface Transport, Road Safety Cell, Government of India, New Delhi, and State Commendation Prize on AIDS Awareness Program conducted by the Directorate of Field Publicity, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India. He is a journal reviewer for 15 reputed journals like Elsewhere Publication, Springer, Taylor, and Francis, etc. More than 90 national and international journals to his credit. He attended 30 conferences, workshops, and conducted 15 national and international conferences and workshops. I very gladly and wholeheartedly invite and introduce today's speaker, Dr. Y. Prasanna Kumar Garu, Principal, Visakha Institute of Engineering and Technology, Visakhapatnam, and former Principal, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering and Technology, to this session. Now, I humbly request Dr. Prasanna Kumar Garu to take over the session.
Yeah. Thank you, Appalraj Garu, for your profile reading. So before going to the section, I'm sincerely thankful to our Dr. Sriramurthy Garu, Dr. Shankar Rao Garu, and Dr. B. Murthy Garu, the management members of Sri Venkateswara Colleges, and the director, Sri Ipili Kishore Garu, Principal, Dr. Surendra Reddy Garu, and today's Faculty Development Program Coordinator, Dr. Prasanna Kumar Garu, and my dear faculty members inside College of Venkateswara College and outside of the college. I am heartily welcome to all of you for this webinar. I confidently tell that this webinar covers the following content or materials like what is environment, what is natural resources, why does it matters for us, what is our role in it, and how to create our own message and talk about environment, particularly water resources. Definitely, I told that after this webinar, you will be equipped with knowledge of what bioabsorption is, and definitely you will be confident enough about the topic to do your own research, and you may be able to talk about it with other people and spread the message what you know while attending this webinar. Okay, so coming to the webinar, the environment plays a vital role in our daily life. The good or bad quality of our life is depending on the quality of our natural environment. Our need for food, water, shelter, and other things depends on the environment around us. There must be a balanced natural cycle that exists between the environment and the lives of human beings, plants, and animals. Human society is playing a vital role in degenerating the natural environment, which is affecting badly the lives on particularly this planet. All the human actions in this modern world directly impact our ecosystem. Many actions of us have brought big changes to this planet, resulting in many environmental problems. Increasing demanding for technologies and industries is another important factor. So what are the various environmental issues? There are many harmful effects of human activities on the environment. Some of these are pollution, overpollution, waste disposal, climate change, global warming, and the greenhouse gases effect, etc. The big reason that poses a serious threat to our environment is the harmful gases in the air. The uncontrolled use of automobile has increased their effects, which in turn emits harmful gases like carbon monoxide. The electronic appliances like air conditioners and refrigerators also contaminating air by the discharge of harmful substances. The diverse effect of these gases is causing air pollution as well as global warming. And one more, deforestation is another major reason. The human population is increasing at a fast rate, and therefore to meet their daily consumption, we need to cut forests and trees. It may be for home or for fuel, but we are causing great loss to the environment. Other factors are the depletion of natural resources like water, fuel, and food. On the other hand, overconsumption of resources by humans and improper waste disposal have resulted in a huge quantity of solid and hazardous waste. So these wastes are other threats to the environment. Then, what are the solutions of the problems of our environment? So, due to all the above human activities, our planet has reached unsustainable levels. Therefore, it is our duty and responsibility to lower the loss. We can't eradicate it fully, but we must, and it is our responsibility to lower the loss. Every individual can play a significant role in this solution. For example, we should take a pledge to say no to plastics. Instead of it, we may make use of eco-friendly substitutes like paper and cloth bags. The government of every country must implement strict laws for industries. Those are releasing the toxic waste for proper waste management. The awareness programs should be organized to encourage citizens to use public transport as much as possible instead of their own vehicles. Also, everyone must do plantation of trees. The less use of private vehicles will reduce the emission of harmful gases, as well will save fuel resources also. So, by seeing all these things, I will conclude. In the end, I want to say that we must spread environmental awareness in our society as well as in our daily routine life. Yeah, it is necessary to save and protect our environment. In my view, it is the responsibility of everyone to do a bit for the environment. Therefore, let us work together towards a greener and more sustainable future. Yeah. So when you observe this image, I think it was a hot summer afternoon in the month of May, so which is very hot. So I want to tell a story and which will link to our topic also. So I was riding on my bike to home. A man who may be in his early 50s asked me for a lift. He was sweating profusely and needed to reach home. As his house was on the way, I was going in, so I gave him a lift. So he explained me to that his sugar level was dropping and need to reach home fast. So I dropped him off at his home and he thanked me wholeheartedly. I got back home and forget about it. So after a month, a small hotel opened nearby my house. I went there to try it out. I was checking out the menu and someone tapped my shoulder from behind. Then I turned. He was the same man whom I gave lift earlier. Yeah, he asked me if I had recognized him. I said no. He explained that I gave him lift a month ago. Then I recollected him. He asked me, what would I like to eat? I was surprised. He said that he is the owner of that hotel and as a token of gratitude, I can have anything for free. I politely refused it, but he was stubborn in his offer. So I gave in. He asked the chef to make the best of the dish I ordered and was given for free. So my dear friends, that day I realized that the good you do, however it is small, goes far. My friends, remember that the good you do, however the small it is, goes far. Any small help you do to the people will forever be engraved in their minds, forever, and it comes back to you in the ways you can never imagine. Mind it. So don't stop doing good and spreading smiles. So why I'm telling this story, which will link at the end of this session. Yeah, what is you want to mind is the good you do, however small, goes far. A small help you do to people will forever be engraved in their minds forever. Please put it in your mind and do some help to people who can in needy position. Yeah, coming to natural resources. So what is meant by resources? Resources does not refer to a thing or a substance, but to a function which a thing or substance may perform, or to an operation in which it may take part, namely the function or operating of attaining a given end, such as satisfying a desire or a want. Therefore, resource means to attain given ends. The aspect of satisfaction is so important that we consider a thing or substance resource so long it meets our needs. My dear friends, life on this planet depends upon a large number of things and services provided by the nature, and which are known as natural resources. Thus, water, air, soil, minerals, coal, forests, crops, and wildlife are all examples for natural resources. Any material which is required or used to sustain life or livelihood is termed as the source. In other words, resources are all provided by the nature. Requirements of organisms, population, and communities, which tend to help in accumulation of energy by their increased availability. Some examples of resources are air for breathing, water for drinking, land for living, and material which is required or used to forests for timber and paper, ores, mineral ores for aluminium, copper, iron, and other metals, and coal, oil, and natural gas for producing energy. Yeah, a natural resource is defined as a form of energy or matter which is essential for the functioning of organisms, populations, and for our ecosystems. In this case of humans, a natural resource refers to any form of energy or matter essential for the fulfillment of psychological, cultural needs and socio-economic, both at the individual level and that to the community. Yeah. So coming to forest resources. Coming to forest resources, forests are one of the most natural resources on this earth, covering the earth like a green blanket. These forests not only produce innumerable materials goods, but also provide several environmental services which are essential to our life. About 1/3 of the world's land area is forested, and which includes closed as well as open forests. But it is a matter of concern that almost everywhere the cover of the natural forests has declined over the years. Then what are the uses? So forests provide us a large number of commercial goods which include timber, firewood, pulpwood, food items, gum, resins, non-edible oils, rubber, fibers, bamboo canes, medicine, drugs, and many more items. Half of the timber cut each year is used as a fuel for heating and cooking. 1/3 of the world harvest is used for building materials as lumber, plywood, and hardwood, and particle board and chipboards like that. And 1/6 of the wood harvest is converted into pulp, and this pulp is used for paper industry. And many forest lands are used for mining, agriculture, and recreation, and for development of dams. And next, coming to water resources. So water is an indispensable natural resource on this earth on which all lives are depends. About 97% of the earth's surface is covered by water, and most of the animals and plants have 60 to 65% water in their body. So water is characterized by certain unique features which makes it a marvelous resource. That's why now we are taking water resource as a main theme in this webinar. So coming to mineral resources. So we're coming to uses for water resources. All of you know that due to its unique properties, water is of multiple uses for all living organisms. Like water is absolutely essential for life. Definitely, no one can say no that. And most of the life process takes place in water contained in the body. Uptake of nutrients, their distribution in the body, and regulation of temperature and removal of waste are all mediated through this water only. So water used by humans are two types. One is water withdrawal, taking water from groundwater or surface water resource, and second one is water consumption, the water which is taken up but not returned for reuse. Yeah. So coming to mineral resources. So minerals are also naturally occurring inorganic and crystalline solids having definite chemical composition and characteristic physical properties. So there are thousands of minerals occurring in different parts of the world. However, most of the rocks we see every day are just composed of few common minerals like quartz and feldspar, etc. So these minerals in turn are composed of some elements like silicon, oxygen, iron, etc. So these minerals are generally used for development of industrial plants, generation of energy, construction, and some equipments and medical systems also. So then coming to food resources. So there are thousands of edible plants and animals over the world, out of which only about 3 dozen types of constitute major food of humans. The main food resources include wheat, rice, potato, barley, oats, etc. About 20 or so common fruits and vegetables, milk, meat, fish, and seafood. So there are problems regarding food also. Every year, food problem is killing as many people as are killed by the atomic bomb drop on Hiroshima during World War II. This shows that there is a drastic need to increase food production, equitably distribute it, and also to control population growth. Although India is the third largest producer of staple crops, an estimated 300 million Indians are still undernourished. And coming to energy resources. So energy resource is also one of the major resources in the country, and the countries depend upon this resource also. Definitely all the countries. Energy consumption of a nation is usually considered as an index of its development. So this is because almost all the development activities are directly or indirectly depend upon energy. There are wide disparities in per capita energy used between developed and the developing nation. The very original form of energy technology probably was the fire, which produced heat, and the early man used it for cooking and heating purpose. And next one is wind and hydropower has also been used. Invention of steam engines sorry. Wind and hydropower has also been used Prasanna? Hello?
Sir.
Can you stop my incoming video?
Sir. Sir. Mute the button. Sir, you can mute your audio, sir.
Prasanna, video code incoming pet aap se.
Sir, Ramakrishna, sir. Sir, Ramakrishna, sir.
Prasanna, is it okay?
Sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah, sorry. coming to energy resources, yeah, wind and hydropower has also been used. Invention of steam engineers replaced the burning of wood by coal, and coal was further replaced by oil. The oil producing have started twisting arms of the developed as well as developing countries by dictating the price. Yeah, energy resources are primarily divided into two categories like renewable and non-renewable sources. Renewable energy resources must be preferred over the non-renewable resources. This will seek to end the energy crisis which the world is facing today. It is inevitable truth that now there is an urgent need of thinking in terms of alternative sources of energy, which are also termed as non-conventional energy sources, which include solar energy, wind energy, hydropower, tidal energy, ocean thermal energy, geothermal energy, biomass, biogas, biofuels, etc. So where the non-renewable energy sources include coal, petroleum, natural gas, and nuclear energy, etc. While coming to land resources, land is a finite and valuable resources upon which we depend for our food, fiber, and fuel wood, and the basic amenities of life. Soil is also a valuable resource. Next, then what is the importance of natural resources? So everything human beings make, eat, drink, or breathe is originally sourced from natural resources only. We live on a planet that is in the middle of trillions and trillions of miles of essentially nothing but mostly empty vacuum with a few chunks of lifeless and barren matter. When practically speaking, therefore, the only natural resources we have are those available on this planet. Also, whatever natural resources that are on this planet need to support humanity for however long we hope to exist as a species. Historically, natural resources played the role of the main driver of the nation's economic development. For example, iron mining and the availability of iron to the UK allowed Britain to become one of the leaders in the world's economy and successfully achieved the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, in fact, the economic and technical development of the countries and the development of their development was inspired by the availability of natural resources, which has encouraged the development of technology. Therefore, the economic development of these countries, although today natural resources are available globally, but the world's economy is still depend on natural resources. My dear friends, at the same time, the main role of natural resources as a major source of economic resources is evident when the availability of natural resources, their use, and the historical, socio-economic, and technical development of countries is compared to. In this context, the difference between North and South is especially evident. For example, early civilizations allowed natural resources such as iron ore, such as example, people to make the first tools as well as weapons. Next, why do we need all these resources? Why? Well, resources can be anything that is available for economic, social, and environmental development, like as labor, minerals, assets, ornaments, force, and so on. Particularly about the natural resources, which are the gift of nature. Definitely, we say that it's a gift. There are numerous importance of reasons, out of which the 4 important ones are: number 1, source of energy, and number 2, air, and water, and source of raw material. So in this lecture, I will take water as the prime resource, and there are talks going on that the Third World War will be fought for water resource. Maybe from morning to night, we all need water for various purposes like drinking, washing, cleaning, bathing, and so on. So can you imagine your life without water? Yeah. Then what could happen if there is no natural resources? Can you imagine? Yeah, well, we had all that be dead. There had been no oxygen to breathe, no land to grow food, etc. But why would we ever arrive at such a position? After all, we can imagine all the oil running out, but then we had generate power in a different way or different manner. We can imagine all the world's copper having been mined, but it's still here, just in a different form. We just need to recover it differently. In fact, virtually nothing has left the Earth's atmosphere, and everything is therefore potentially recoverable. Then why is it necessary to conserve them? To conserve all the resources? Why it is necessary? Because all resources can be anything that is available for economic and for the economic, social, and environmental development. So it is very important to conserve these resources, because they are not in infinite supply. That is to say, they either don't regenerate, or depending on how greedy we are in their use, can't regenerate fast enough. So if we don't conserve these resources, there will become a time when we no longer have a choice, because there won't be any resources. All water will be polluted, all air likewise, trees will be extinct. As we get closer and closer to the time that we no longer have these resources, humanity itself will die. Particularly, humans and animals depend upon natural resources for their source of food, shelter, clothing, etc. If these resources is not conserved, and renewing them will depend upon nature, which is slow and selective, then gradually human and animal life will decline until life becomes extinct. So natural resources in the form of water, clean air, trees, grass, plants, soils, rocks, and the seas, if severely polluted, for example, by man, will not be usable for his needs. And what will become of man? So unfortunately, we use all these resources every year excessively. The only way to ensure that our resources will stay abundant is to conserve them. Yeah. Water. Pure water is the world's first and foremost medicine. And we already discussed about the water, which plays a significant role in maintaining human health and welfare. And any contaminants in the water can affect the water quality and consequently the human health also. The potential source of water contamination are from domestic conditions, industrial, and from agricultural activities, and from water treatment plants also. So these contaminants are further categorized as a physical, chemical, and microbiological properties of water. So water is also very abundant on this earth, yet it is very precious. Out of total water reserves of the world, about 90% is salty water, which is marine water, and only 3% of water is fresh water. Even this small fraction of fresh water is not available to us. Most of it is locked up in polar ice caps, and just a negligible 0.03% is readily available to us in the form of groundwater and surface water. So our use of groundwater for drinking, irrigation, and domestic purposes has resulted in rapid depletion of groundwater in various regions, leading to lowering of water table and dying of wells. So pollution of many of the groundwater aquifers has made of these wells unfit for consumption. So how this water is distributed from in the world? So water has the central role in mediating global scale ecosystem processes. So linking with the atmosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere by moving substances between them and enabling chemical reactions to occur. So what is essential to human life and to the health of the environment? So as a valuable natural resource of this water, it comprises marine and estuarine and fresh water. Fresh water come from rivers and lakes, and groundwater environments across coastal and inland areas. So most of these found on this planet is held within the oceans, means approximately 97% of this was placed in ocean. The use of this sink of water by humans is limited because of the dissolved salts it contains. So the contents of dissolved salt, its taste is salt, very salt, which is not drinkable. And below describe the major reservoirs of water found on the earth. And second one is ice caps and glaciers contain about 2% of the world's total water. And coming to third, humans are primarily use this fresh water found in groundwater, lakes, and rivers, etc., which is less than 1% of the earth supply. So coming to the types of aquatic ecosystem. So the aquatic ecosystem can be broken down into two basic regions, like freshwater, that is ponds and lakes, streams and rivers, wetland, and marine ecosystem like oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries. So an estuary is a partially enclosed coastal body of brackish water with one or more rivers or stream flowing into it, and with a free connection to the open sea. So coming to the freshwater region, it is defined as having a low salt concentration. Usually, it contains less than 1% of salt. Okay, plants and animals in freshwater regions are adjusted to the low salt content and would not be able to survive in areas of high salt concentrations. Okay, these type of animals and plants are not able to survive in of high salt concentration, which is more than 1%. So there are different types of freshwater regions: ponds and lakes, and streams and rivers, and wetlands. So ponds and lakes, these regions range in size from just a few square meters to thousands of square kilometers. And coming to streams and rivers, these are the bodies of flowing water moving in one direction. Streams and rivers can be found everywhere. They get their starts of headwaters, which may be springs, snowmelt, or even lakes, and then travel all the way to their mouths. Usually another water channel or the ocean. These streams and rivers are. Then coming to wetlands, wetlands are areas of standing water that support aquatic plants. Marshes, swamps, and bogs are all considered as wetlands. And plant species adapted to the very moist and humid conditions are called hydrophytes. And these wetlands have the highest species diversity of all the ecosystem. Next, coming to marine ecosystems. So these marine regions cover about 3/4 of the Earth's surface and include oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries. And marine algae supply much of the world's oxygen supply and take in a huge amount of atmospheric carbon dioxide. And in this marine ecosystem, oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries are the major parts. Coming to ocean, these are the largest of all the ecosystems. And oceans are very large bodies of water that dominate the Earth's surface. When coming to coral reefs are widely distributed in warm, shallow waters. They can be found as barriers along continents, fringing islands, and atolls. Naturally, so the dominant organism in coral reefs are corals. Next, coming to estuaries. Estuaries are, already I defined the estuaries, and where freshwater streams and rivers merge with the ocean. And this mixing of waters with such different salt concentration creates a very interesting and unique ecosystem where the freshwater streams and rivers merge with the ocean. That is the area of estuaries. So like microflora like algae and macroflora such as seaweeds can be found in these estuaries. Estuaries suppose a diverse fauna including a variety of worms, oysters, crabs, and waterfowls, so many creatures or animals in the marine ecosystem. Next, what are the threats to the ecosystem? So increasingly, aquatic ecosystems are under increasing stress due to the rapidly growing population and technological development, urbanization, and economic growth. And these human activities are causing aquatic species to disappear at an alarming rate. So we can protect all these ecosystems. So what are the different threats and causes? By seeing these things, here, so during flooding and reclamation, water diversion, and roads erosion, irrigation, waterworks. So this causes the water regime. So the threat water regime is due to all these flooding, reclamation, water diversion like that. And one more threat is water pollution. So this is because of solid waste, refuse, sewage, fecal, and mining, siltation, pesticides, and fertilizer, and salinization of soils. So the fertilizer, using excess of fertilizers and using excessive of pesticides more than. So this causes the water pollution. And coming one more threat is physical modification. This is due to the erosion, flooding, sedimentation, clearance and fire, agriculture, hunting, recreation, quarrying, infrastructure, housing, sand mining, all these related to soil and all these things. So this is the physical modification is one of the threat causing due to all these things. And next, coming to one more threat is over exploitation. So this over exploitation is due to the fishing, fuel wood, hunting of birds and mammals, grazing, like that. So human impacts on the quality and quantity of fresh water can threaten economic prosperity also, and social stability, and the resilience of ecological services that the aquatic system provides. So, my dear friends, these are the some of the threats to aquatic system, and we should make them to clear all the systems with our technology to make our resources alive and regenerate or renewable our resources. Next, coming to the what are the metals present in the aquatic system and how these metals in the aquatic systems will affect to the system. Basically, metals, a major category of globally distributed pollutants and are natural elements that have been extracted from the earth. So these metals are notable for their wide environmental dispersion from such activity. They tend in select tissues of the human body also. Even in small traces also that give more impact to the human as well as the aqua life also. So, and moreover, it is very difficult for anyone to avoid exposure to any of the many harmful heavy metals that are so prevalent in our environment. So, a reflection of a very basic tenant technology or toxicology is the dose makes the poison. So, all these metals which are released from these industries. There's chromium, copper, iron, manganese, lead, and zinc. All these metals are released from this general in the mining industry, plating industry, and fertilizer industry, paper and products. From these industries, we can they release these metals to the environment. And this cadmium, chromium, nickel, mercury is also from plating and fertilizers industry. And selenium is from electronics, and chromium and tin will come from paint products and paper products. So these are the things we should consider into our. And what are the toxicological aspects of heavy metals? So due to their mobility in aquatic ecosystem and their toxicity to higher life norms, heavy metals in surface and groundwater supplies have been prioritized as a major inorganic contaminants in the environment. So these heavy metals hazards to humans as well as aqua life. And such metals are found naturally in the soil in trace amounts, even though which pose a few problems. When concentrated in particular areas, however, they present a severe or serious danger. So coming to arsenic and cadmium, for instance, can cause cancer. Mercury can cause mutations and genetic damage, while copper, lead, and mercury can cause brain and bone damage. So these are the some of the metals. And when we take the chromium, so when humans are exposed to chromium through breathing, eating or drinking, and through skin contact with chromium or chromium compounds, then the level of chromium in the air and water is generally low. But in drinking water, the level of chromium is usually low as well. But contaminated well water may contain the dangerous chromium-6, means hexavalent chromium. While chromium-6 is a danger to human health, mainly for people who work in the steel and textile industry. So when it is a compound in leather products also, it can cause allergic reactions such as skin rash, like that. So when we consider to the mercury, so mercury is generally considered to be one of the most toxic metals found in the environment. The major sources of mercury pollution in environment are industries like chloroalkali and paints and paper mills, oil refining, rubber processing and fertilizer, batteries, fluorescent light tubes and high intensity street lamps, pesticides, cosmetics and pharmaceuticals and so on. So it affects mercury affects the genetic defects causing chromosome breaking and interference in cell division that results in abnormal distribution of chromosome. So while coming to nickel, higher concentrations of nickel cause cancer of lungs, nose and bones. When coming to iron, so iron exists in two forms. So one is soluble ferrous iron, means Fe2 plus, and insoluble ferric particulate iron means that is Fe3 plus. The presence of iron in natural water may be attributed to the dissolution of rocks and minerals. This presence of iron at concentration above 0.1 mg per liter will damage the gills of the fish. Iron is an essential element in human nutrition, but also in excess of that, the aqua family will affect. So there are so many effects for the aqua region as well as the human, but we are making aquatic conditions only. So what are the effects of heavy metals on aquatic organisms? So aquatic organisms are adversely affected by heavy metals in the environment. So the toxicity is largely a function of the water chemistry and sediment composition in the surface water system. Many organisms are able to regulate the metal concentration in their tissues. So when comparison to the freshwater, fish and invertebrates or aquatic plants are equally or less sensitive to cadmium, copper, lead, mercury, nickel and zinc. Thus the water resources should be managed for the protection of fish and other aqua life in order to ensure aquatic plant survivability. So sometimes metals may enter the system of aquatic organisms via three main paths. One is free metal ions that are absorbed through respiratory surface or readily diffused into the bloodstream. And second one is free metal ions that are absorbed onto body surfaces or passively diffused into the bloodstream. And the third one is metals that are absorbed into food and particulates may be ingested as well as free ions ingested with water. So that is the effects of heavy metals on aquatic organism. And coming to irrigation effects of heavy metals. So irrigation water contaminated with the sewage or industrial effluents may transport dissolved and heavy metals to agricultural fields. Although most heavy metals do not pose a threat to humans through crop consumption. Okay, so next coming to, so what is the need for the removal of these heavy metals? If these heavy metals are present, even though within permissible rate, which cause the effects to the human as well as the aquatic life. So what is the need? So what is the need for the removal of these heavy metals? So continuous discharge of industrial and domestic and agricultural waste in rivers and lakes causes deposit of pollutants in sediments. So these heavy metals cannot be destroyed through biological degradation or as in the case with most organic pollutants. So excessive amounts of these heavy metals can be toxic through direct action of the metal or through their inorganic salts or via organic compounds from which the metal can become easily detached or introduced into the cell. And some of the heavy metals are toxic to aquatic organisms even at low concentrations. So the problem of heavy metal pollution in water and aquatic organisms, including fish, needs continuous monitoring and surveillance as these elements do not degrade and tend to biomagnify in man through food chain. So, my dear friends, hence there is a need to remove the heavy metals from the aquatic system. So, research and development therefore focus on sector-specific methods and technologies to remove heavy metals from different kinds of waste streams. So, in view of the above, toxicological effects of heavy metals on environment, animals, and human beings, and it becomes an imperative to treat these toxic compounds in wastewater effluents before they are discharged into freshwater bodies. Next, what are the various methods to remove the heavy metal pollutants? So, over the last few decades, several methods have been devised for the treatment and removal of heavy metals. Numerous industries like electroplating, metal finishing, and electronic circuit production, steel and non-ferrous process, and fine chemical and pharmaceutical production. So all these industries discharge a variety of toxic metals into the environment. So there are common conventional methods for the treatments of metals which we place. There is a chemical precipitation, distillation, reverse osmosis, solvent extraction, membrane, filtration, cementation, ion exchange. These are the different conventional methods which you people already know. So solvent extraction is a liquid-liquid extraction, and also it frequently referred as the solvent extraction. And chemical precipitation is precipitation of metals is achieved by the addition of coagulants such as alum, lime, iron salts, and other organic polymers. Next, coming to distillation. Distillation is the separation based on the boiling points. Even though in distillation, advantage is removes a broad range of contaminants and which can be reusable. These are the two advantages in the distillation process. So, and also there is a disadvantages. Some contaminants can be carried into the condensate. And number two, it requires careful maintenance to ensure purity. And third one is it consumes large amounts of energy. So we can move to the another things, that is a reverse osmosis. A reverse osmosis is a permeable membrane separates a dilute and a concentration solution. In this process, the advantages are effectively removes all types of contaminants to some extent, like particles, pyrogens, microorganisms, colloids, and dissolved inorganics. And it requires a minimal maintenance. So these are the advantages. And the only disadvantages in this reverse osmosis is it's limited flow rates. It's limited flow rates. So then while coming to membrane process, these processes involve ionic concentration by the use of selective membrane with a specific driving force. So the application of the membrane process described is limited due to pre-treatment requirements, primarily for the removal of suspended solids, like that. Then coming to filtration, the water slowly passes through the porous bed and the effluent is collected at the bottom. This is the principle of filtration. And in the filtration, there is some advantages like absolute filters remove all particles and microorganisms greater than the pore size. And it requires a minimal maintenance. And the disadvantage in the filtration is it will not remove dissolved inorganics, pyrogens are all colloidal. And one more disadvantage is it's potentially high expandable costs. And the third one is it is not regenerable. Okay, so coming to ion exchange, so the limitations on the use of this ion exchange are for inorganic effluent treatment are primarily high cost and the requirements for appropriate pre-treatment system. And this ionic exchange is capable of providing metal ion concentration to parts per million levels. However, in the presence of large quantities of competing mono and divalent ions such as sodium, calcium, ion exchange is almost totally ineffective. And coming to electrode deposition, some metals found in waste solution can be recovered by this electrode deposition using insoluble anodes. Then coming to adsorption. So, since activated carbon also possesses an affinity for heavy metals, considerable attention has been focused on this adsorption, a use of carbon for adsorption metals present in various other forms from wastewater. Even though in every technique there are so many advantages and disadvantages. So to overcome these disadvantages, we can invent the another new process. So every technology has its own advantages as well as the disadvantages. So to overcome this disadvantage, we invent new technology. So even conventional methods also, there are some disadvantages. So these metals are class of pollutants and often toxic and dangerous, and these are widely present in industrial and household wastewaters. And electroplating and metal finishing operations, electronic circuit production, steel and aluminum process, to name but a few industries, produce large quantities of wastewater containing metals. So basically, these all the industries release in a, not in a permissible limit according to the pollution board norms. Some excess range, excess concentration, they are releasing. So when coming to metal precipitation, using a cheap alkali such as lime, lime is nothing but calcium hydroxide, has been the most favored option. Other separation technologies are now beginning to find favor. Next, coming to precipitation. Precipitation is by adjusting the pH value is not selective, and any ferric ion present in the liquid effluent will be precipitated initially, followed by other metals and producing solid sludge. So by adjusting this pH value is not selective, and any iron, and this precipitation produces large quantities of solid sludge for disposable. So by mentioning these disadvantages, there is a need for another technology to come out and to invent a new technology, and that is nothing but our this webinar's title, bioabsorption. During the 1970s, increasing environmental awareness and concern led to a search for new techniques capable of inexpensive treatment of polluted wastewater with metals. So the search for new technologies involving the removal of toxic metals from wastewater has directed attention towards this bioabsorption based on binding capacity of various biological materials, and which are in dead biomass, like we say dead biomass. So till date, the research in the area of bioabsorption suggests it to be an ideal alternative. It is an ideal alternative for decontamination of metal containing effluent. So bioabsorbents are attractive since naturally occurring materials or biomass or can be effectively used. And this bioabsorption is a rapid phenomena of passive metal sequestration by the non-growing biomass. So results are convincing, and binding capacity of certain biomass are comparable with the other commercial synthetic cation exchange resins. So now the bioabsorption is a solution to pollution, particularly in water treatment, which contains of various heavy metal as pollutants. So what are the advantages of this bioabsorption? So when compared to other technologies, it will be cheaper, faster, and cleaner. So when compared to other conventional techniques, it is very cheap. The cost of the bioabsorbent is low since they often made from abundant or waste material, which is waste. We are using that material as biomass or bioabsorbent. So when coming to the metal selective, the metals absorbing the performance of different types of biomass can be more or less based on the selection of different metals. And this depends on various factors such as the type of biomass mixed in the solution, and type of biomass preparation, and type of biomass physico-chemical treatment. So before treatment, after treatment also, the biomass will be changes its properties, so that we can achieve more and maximum recovery of the metal ion also. When coming to the regenerative, so most of the bioagents can be reused after the metal is recycled, and there is no sludge generation. Yeah, definitely there is no secondary problems with the sludge occurs with bioabsorption, as is the case with many other techniques, for example precipitation. And coming to metal recovery, yeah, is in this adsorption, metal recovery is possible. In case of metals, it can be recovered after being absorbed from the solution, and this bioabsorption is a competitive performer. So bioabsorption is a capable of performance comparable to the most similar technique, ion exchange treatment. So where ion exchange is, as mentioned above, rather costly, or making the low cost of bioabsorption is a major factor. So these are the advantages by using the bioabsorption to remove the heavy metal pollutants from the aquatic system. So not only by using biomass, we can use the bioabsorption for removing heavy metals from the aquatic system by using microorganism also. So bioabsorbents are intended for bioremediation, environmental applications, or waste biomass of crabs, algae, fungi, bacteria, etc., and which are the naturally abundantly available to us. Yeah, a large number of microorganisms belong to various groups like bacteria, fungi, yeasts, and algae. The role of various microorganisms by bioabsorption in the removal of and recovery of heavy metals has been well reviewed by and documented by so many others since 1980 or 70 onwards. I think some 80s onwards. So many people are researching regarding this heavy metals recovery and removal by using microorganisms. And most of the bioabsorption studies reported in literature have been carried out with living microorganisms. This one which we mentioned that. So most of the researchers have studied by using the living microorganism. However, due to certain inherent disadvantages, using of living microorganisms for metal removal and recovery is not generally feasible to in all the situations. So, what are that situation means? Living organism growth independent. So, growth independent non-living biomass is not subject to toxicity limitations by cells, and the biomass from an existing fermentation industry, which is essentially a waste after fermentation, can be cheap source of biomass. So by using this non-living biomass, which is some advantage over the living organisms. And the process is not governed by physiological and constraints of microbial cells. So these are the some of the and because of non-living biomass behaves as an ion exchanger, the process is very rapid, requiring anywhere between few minutes or to few hours. So metal loading is very high on the surface of the biomass, leading to very efficient metal uptake. We already titled the bioabsorption as a cheaper, faster, and cleaner. No? Yeah, because cells are non-living, processing conditions are not restricted to those conducive for the growth of the cells. Hence, a wider range of operating conditions such as pH, temperature, and metal ion concentration are possible. Also, operating conditions are not essential. Aesthetic operational conditions are not essential for non-living biomass. So metal can be resorbed readily and then recovered. If the value and the amount of metal recovered are insignificant, and if the biomass is plentiful, the metal loaded biomass can be incinerated, eliminating further treatment. So these are the advantages for the biomass by using living and non-living bioorganisms. By using the microorganism, some disadvantages are there by using the microorganisms. So there are certain inherent disadvantages of using micro for the bioabsorption of heavy metals, such as the protein-rich algal and fungal biomass projected as metal bioabsorbents have limitations, as proteinous materials are likely to petrify under moist conditions. So further, most metal bioabsorption reported in literature is based on algal and fungal biomasses, which must be cultured, and these are collected from their natural habitats and pre-processed one. If available as discards and transported under special condition, that introduce the factor of additional cost. So these are the some of the disadvantages. So to overcome all these disadvantages by using microorganisms for the removal of heavy metal pollutants from aquatic system, so we can using low cost adsorbents. So these are overcome by using low cost adsorbents. So these research pertaining to low cost adsorbents is gaining importance these days through most of the work is at laboratory scales. Some of the low cost sorbents reported so far include like bark and other tannin rich materials, chitosan, zeolites, clay, and peat moss. So these bark and other tannin are the these are getting from timber industry. So which generates a bark, a byproduct that is effective because of its high tannin content. And another waste product from the timber industry is sawdust. While bark is the most likely choice due to its wide availability, and other low cost byproducts containing tannin show promise for economic metal absorption as well. So second one is the chitosan. So among various bioabsorbents, chitin is the second most abundant natural biopolymers after cellulose. So however, more important than chitin is chitosan, which has a molecular structure similar to cellulose. So presently, chitosan is attracting an increasing amount of research interests. So the growing need for new sources of low-cost adsorbent and the increased problems of waste disposal and the increasing cost of the synthetic resins undoubtedly make chitosan is the one of the best and most attractive materials as adsorbent for water treatment. And coming to zeolites, zeolites is basically a naturally occurring crystalline aluminosilicates consisting of a framework of tetrahedral molecules, and these linked with each other by shared oxygen atoms. And next, coming to clay. So clay is widely known that there are three basic species of clay. One is montomerlinite and colonite and micas, after which montomerlinite has the highest cation exchange capacity, and its market price is also considerably 20 times cheaper than the other activate carbon. And coming to peat moss. So peat moss is a complex soil material containing lignin and cellulose as a major constituents. So it is a natural substance widely available and abundant. So peat moss is the relatively inexpensive material. So these are the low cost adsorbent for metal removal. So coming to the isotherms. So what is meant by isotherm and how these isotherms are important? So to find out the equilibrium relationship between the adsorbent and adsorbates are described by the adsorption isotherms, which gives the capacity of the adsorbent for a adsorbent. So simply, it is to find out the capacity of the adsorbent, what we are using, whether it is a low-cost adsorbent or it is a microorganism or dead biomass. So an adsorption isotherm is a curve relating to the equilibrium concentrate of a solute on the surface of an adsorbent, that is represented as QEQ, to the concentration of the solute in the liquid, that is CEQ, with which it is in a contact. So I am now here I am explaining about the 4 isotherms. We have so many isotherms, and generally these 4 are utilized in many research activities. And so isotherms are mainly to find the capacity of the adsorbent, how much capacity the adsorbent will adsorb the metal. To find out those capacity, we can draw the lines and graphs between these two, and from the slope and intercept we can get the capacity of the adsorbent. So coming to the friendly expression. So it is an empirical equation based on adsorption onto a heterogeneous surface. So this equation is represented as QEQ is equal to KF CEQ to the power of M, where these KF and M are Freundlich constant characteristic of the system and are indicators of the KF is the adsorption capacity and M is the intensity, adsorption intensity. Okay. So the equation is conveniently used in the linear form also by taking the logarithmic of both sides as log QUQ equal to log KF M log CUQ. Next, coming to the Langmuir equation. So the Langmuir model is probably the best known and most widely applied adsorption isotherm, and it has produced good agreement with a wide variety of experiments and getting the experimental data. So this Langmuir equation has been used extensively for the dilute solution in the following form, that is QE is equal to Qmax BCEQ by 1 plus BCEQ, where Qmax is the maximum amount of the metal ion per unit weight of adsorbent, which is in mg per grams, and B is a constant related to the affinity of the binding sites. Okay, next coming to the Reddys-Peterson isotherm. So it incorporates features of both these Freundlich and Langmuir equations, and it described as follows, like QE equal to ACE by 1 plus BCE to the power of G, where A and B are the Reddys-Peterson isotherm constant, and G is the Reddys-Peterson isotherm exponent, which lies between 0 to 1. And the linearized form of equation is given by ln ACEQ by QEQ minus 1 is equal to G ln CUQ by ln B. There is a linear. So this Reddys and Peterson equation at low concentrations approximates to Henry law, and at high concentrations its behavior approaches that the Freundlich isotherm. So coming to the Temkin. So this derivation of the Temkin isotherm assumes that the fall in the heat of adsorption is linear rather than the logarithmic. So as implied in the Freundlich equation. So the Temkin isotherm has generally been applied in the following form: QE equals to RT by BT ln AT CUQ, where AT and BT are the Temkin isotherm constants. So these are the isotherms we can find here to find out the adsorbent capacity of the adsorbents, and if sometimes affinity of the adsorption is also we can find by using isotherms. So by plotting the graph between these metal uptake and concentration, we can get these values from the slope and intercept. Next, coming to the kinetics. So kinetic studies are much importance in the recent year, since they provide us the most powerful method of investigating the detailed reaction mechanisms. So for any synthetic purpose, knowledge of reaction mechanism will often allow the reaction condition to be selected for maximum product yields, and it is one of the most intriguing and challenging areas of chemistry, which deals with the mechanism of reactions. To many chemists, the real heart of chemistry is the study of mechanism. Thus, the chemical kinetics can be defined as that a branch of chemistry concerned with the study of prediction of time-dependent system. So, to understand the mechanism of any reaction, we must know the reaction of a function of time, the exact position of all the atoms as the reactants are converted into product molecules. So virtually all information regarding reaction mechanisms comes by inference of indirect evidence. Hence, it is important job of chemists to devise the proper experiments to generate the most conclusive evidence. So all these kinetics in both laboratory and in reaction rate is of vital practical interest. So here I am giving the two models, pseudo first order kinetic equation and pseudo second order kinetic equation. So this is dq by dt k1 q by qt and second order. So for the most things, these second order fit very well. So this is what I want to explore by this webinar. So And this pseudo first order, we think that this Lagrange rate equation is one of the most widely used absorption rate equations for the absorption of a solute from a liquid solution, and it may be represented as follows. And this QEQ and QT are the absorption capacity at equilibrium and at time t. So the rate constant of K1 is the rate constant of pseudo first order equation or absorption. And coming to the second order, so this model was expressed by Ho and McKay. So dQt by dt is equal to K2 QEQ minus QT square, where QE and QT are absorption capacity at equilibrium and at a time t. And K2 is the rate constant of pseudo second order absorption. So while we plot the graph between T by Qt against T, give you a linear relationship from which we can find out the QEQ and K2, and which will be determined from the slope and intercept of this plot. Yeah, this is what we need to know about the removal of heavy metal pollutants from wastewater. Even though there are so many technologies are there, why bioabsorption is placed that much importance in nowadays, means which is a cheaper, faster and cleaner. So be part of the solution, not part of the pollution. So this is my slogan at the end of this presentation. And my dear friends, at the beginning, I give you a slogan that any small help you do to people will forever be engraved in their minds, forever. So you please make a good, you do, however it is small, goes far. In the same manner, the environment and you, if you both are live, good, definitely we will be good. So for that, there are so many ways you can make a difference. So in that, I will give only 5 ways. One is reduce your overall consumption. Number 1 is reduce your overall consumption. I know it sounds really simple when you think about it, but it is a vital step we all need to take. And second one is practice root to stem cooking. Yeah, practice root to stem or root to leaf cooking is another way to minimize food waste and help the environment. And third one is curb energy consumption. Most of us use energy in one way or another every minute of the day. The problem with this is many people are unaware of exactly how much energy gets consumed. Did you know leaving counter appliances plugged in uses energy even when the appliance is not on? It is called vampire energy. You can curb your energy consumption by unplugging appliances and electronics not in use. And number 4th one is keep an eye on water usage. My dear friends, whether or not you live in an area prone to droughts, keeping an eye on water usage is key for the environment. We don't need to waste water just because we have it so easily accessible. Many people have to overcome numerous obstacles simply to gain access to fresh water. So those of us who have it at our fingertips need to be responsible and not waste water. So conserving water will save you money too. And last one, 5th one is make changes to your driving habits. So making simple changes in your driving habits can be extremely beneficial to the environment. So keeping all these in your minds and give a helping hand to the society so that definitely we will improve and renewable our energy sources or natural sources, whatever we have, we can all renew all the sources what we have. So this is the one type of conserve the resources. So my dear friends, the more we can do to help protect the environment for future generations, the better off we will be in the long run. Although it is true, the earth will go through cyclic changes. Doing our part for the environment is a responsibility we all must bear. Fortunately, it does not take much. Additionally, the more we make environmentally friendly choices and demand others do the same, the broader the impact. Thank you all. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. So thank you for your valuable session, sir, on environmental protection using bioabsorption, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And some queries are there, sir, in the chat box. I will read them, sir. Please wait. Sir, one participant asked, sir, which elements are most essential for good crops of gram and peanuts? Please explain. Hello.
Sorry, one more. Sorry, please repeat.
Sir, which elements are most essential for good crops of gram and peanuts? Please explain.
Yeah. Sorry, my dear friend. Basically, I'm a chemical engineering. It's not basically I'm a chemistry. So even though it is, I think it is a agriculture-based question.
Sir. And
why is not there why is it not reflected very first?
please wait, sir. Sir, another doubt, sir. Sir, all adsorbents are pseudo first order?
No, not like that.
Sir.
So we can plot the which give a linear expression. Based on that, we can judge the whether it is the reaction will take place as a pseudo second order and first order based on the rate constant only. We can't come to a conclusion that all the adsorbents are connected to pseudo first order or second order. So most of the adsorbents are tended to second order. So that may not also correct. By plotting the graph between these first order and second order, which will give linear, then we can conclude that this tends to the second order, like that only.
Sir, one more, sir. Yes, sir. Continue, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what is the better way of adding fertilizers through soil or direct spreading on plants?
Yeah, if we protect the soil, definitely we have by adding these pesticides, fertilizers. Even though, for example, even though we are drinking bottled water, which is not good for our health, even though people are drinking bottled water. So actually, for groundwater, we have drink what are the minimum natural elements we should require that will be in the groundwater. But due to these various pollutants absorbed from to the soil gives the pollutant. So rich minerals are there earlier in the soil or whatever it may be, but now it's polluted. So better to consume as per norms, as per the guidelines of EPA only.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. No queries, sir. so far is so far, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Now,
you all. Thank you for
sir.
your patience listening to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to conclude today's session, sir. Sir, now I invite our Honorable Principal, Dr. V. Surendra Reddy Garu. I request him to say a few words regarding the session. Sir, Principal, sir. Okay. Now, I heartily welcome to I. Kishore Garu, Management Member and Director of ISVC and backbone of all the events. And I request you, sir, to express your message in this valedictory session. Sir, please invite you, sir.
A very good morning to everyone. Firstly, thank you, Prasanna Kumar Garu, for the wonderful session today. It was a pleasure to hear you again. So I think it was a great session today. And to all the participants out there, I think the 4 days FDP program on the chemical science research and advanced technologies in was very useful. And I think the first day, Dr. Paul Douglas Garu, and then we heard from Machiraju Garu, and then we heard about IP things, and then the last day it was a great session from Dr. Prasanna Kumar Garu as well. So I hope all these sessions will be useful, and in return we'll be taking this knowledge back to the students. And I'm just hoping all this will be shared it back in a pretty good manner with the students. Thank you all, and have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to say a word of thanks, sir. I must thank to all the directors of the Venkateswara Group of Colleges, Dr. B. Srinamurthy Garu, Dr. I. Shankara Garu, and Dr. B.V.S.N. Murthy Garu to give a platform to conduct all these programs like FDP webinars, etc. and for your support. And definitely, I have to thank Mr. I. Kishore Garu, management member and director of ISVC and backbone of all the events, and advisor and supporter, whatnot, everything for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I thank Dr. V. Surendra Reddy Garu, principal, SVCET, to your valuable support, sir. And I thank all the HODs for their moral support, and also thank to all the faculty members of SVCET and ISVC team for their technical support at every minute. I thank you, everyone, and I thank coordinates of this event, A. Appalnayadu Garu and B. Prandam Garu, for your support and all the BS and staff members. So thank you all. And especially we have to thank all the participants, faculty members, professors, associate professors, and assistant professors who participate in this FDP to make our FDP grand success. Thank you, everyone. And I must thank today's speaker, Dr. Y. Prasanna Kumar Garu, to spend his valuable time for us. So thank you very much, sir. And thank you all. Have a nice day. And all the participants, please, fill the feedback link which was posted in the YouTube chat box. Please fill it and leave. Thank you, everyone. In the YouTube chat box.